Welcome to today's news discussion. I'm Sarah, and I'm joined by Sean.
Hi, I'm Sean. We're covering several major stories today, starting with a significant earthquake in Colombia.
Let's begin with the earthquake in Colombia. The country has declared 3 days of mourning for the victims of the quake that struck on Monday.
That's right. The magnitude 7.4 earthquake was the strongest to hit Colombia in a century. What's the latest on the death toll?
According to recent reports, the death toll has risen to over 254 people, with 101 killed in Pereira and 95 in Cali. The government has also declared a state of emergency.
That's devastating. What about the rescue efforts? Are they still ongoing?
Yes, rescue crews are still searching for survivors trapped under debris. The search has entered a critical phase as they try to locate thousands of missing people.
I can imagine it's a challenging task. Have there been any notable rescues so far?
Actually, there was a report of a Colombian woman being pulled alive from the rubble, which is a positive note amidst the tragedy.
That's great to hear. What's the overall impact on the healthcare system and infrastructure?
The quake strained parts of the healthcare system, and the rescue effort has become one of Colombia's largest disaster responses in years. Buildings were demolished, roads buckled, and cars were crushed.
So what's the government's response to the disaster?
The government is providing temporary rental subsidies to families whose homes were damaged. They're also working to address the immediate needs of the affected populations.
That makes sense. It's a massive operation. Do we know how this earthquake compares to others in Colombia's history?
This was the strongest earthquake in Colombia in over a century, so it's a significant event in terms of the country's seismic history.
I understand. The search for survivors is becoming increasingly critical. Can you elaborate on that?
As time passes, the chances of finding survivors decrease. Rescue crews are working around the clock to search through rubble in dozens of cities and towns affected by the quake.
The scale of the disaster is massive, with thousands missing. What's being done to support the families of the missing?
The government is not only focusing on rescue efforts, but also on providing support to those affected, including temporary housing subsidies.
That's crucial. The article mentioned the new president is being tested by this disaster. How so?
The president is facing the challenge of coordinating a large-scale disaster response while also addressing the long-term needs of the affected communities.
It's a tough situation. Moving on to a different story, what's the latest on solar eclipses visible from the UK?
There's been some discussion about upcoming solar eclipses. The next total solar eclipse visible from the UK won't be until 2050.
That's a long wait. What about partial eclipses? Are there any coming up soon?
Actually, there's a partial eclipse next year, but the next significant total solar eclipse visible from the UK is still quite far away, in 2050.
I see. So today's eclipse was quite significant, with up to 96% of the sun covered by the moon.
Yes, it was a major event, making it the most significant eclipse of its kind since 1999.
That's fascinating. How often do such significant eclipses occur?
Not very often. The alignment required for a total solar eclipse is quite rare, making these events particularly noteworthy.
I can understand why they're so popular among astronomers and sky gazers.
Let's shift to a controversial story. There's been criticism of a federal law enforcement agency's plan to purchase gloves that can deliver an electric shock.
That sounds alarming. What's the background on this plan?
The Department of Homeland Security published a notice revealing plans to spend $20 million on thousands of these gloves, which has raised concerns among civil rights groups.
Why are these gloves considered problematic?
Critics argue that the gloves could be used inappropriately or excessively, potentially leading to harm or abuse of power by law enforcement officers.
I see. So what's the agency's justification for wanting these gloves?
The reporting doesn't provide a clear justification, but the plan is to equip officers and agents with these specialized gloves.
This is certainly a contentious issue. Have there been any reactions from the public or lawmakers?
The plan has been met with significant criticism, with some expressing outrage and calling for greater oversight of law enforcement equipment and practices.
It's an interesting contrast to the more straightforward disaster response stories we've been discussing.
I noticed there's a mention of the Manila Times, one of the oldest national broadsheets in the Philippines. Is there any significant news related to this?
It seems the Manila Times is being mentioned in the context of Media Outreach Newswire. but there's no specific news story or controversy attached to it in the provided context.
That's right. The information provided is more background on the Manila Times, highlighting its history and significance in the Philippines.
So it's more of a contextual mention rather than a news story per se.
As we've covered all the remaining stories, that's all for today's discussion.
Thank you, Sarah. It's been a comprehensive look at several major news stories.
Thank you, Sean. Until next time.